Hey guys, Deepak here from digitaldeepak.com, and today we have Ankur Warikoo in our show. And today I will be asking him a bunch of questions. I can't just say who is Ankur Warikoo because he is this combination of multiple things, and he has done a lot. So we will hear it from his perspective itself. And as you know, he was the CEO of Nearby, and now he's doing a bunch of things. His journey is very interesting. So we'll get started asking him about his journey. So, hey, Ankur, welcome to the show. And thanks for joining. So, I just
Thank
wanted
you so
to,
much.
great. So, I just wanted to start the conversation by asking you, you were on the path of becoming an astrophysicist, and then you became an entrepreneur, especially like an internet entrepreneur, then a motivational speaker, then angel investor. So can you just give us an idea about how has been the journey and how did things start and how do you feel about where you are right now?
Uh, that is a very deep question. So thanks again, firstly, for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your platform. I'm a very keen admirer of your content, your work, and thanks for putting out all of that and dispelling the myths of so many nuances that digital marketing usually houses. As someone who's been a digital marketer for a really long time, it's funny how many people claim to be a digital marketer without understanding what it means. So thanks for doing what you do. I've been very blessed at Deepak to have the life that I've had. As you rightly pointed out, I was training to be an astrophysicist. I was in the US doing my PhD. And while I was on that journey, I realized that physics was something that I was good at, but it didn't make me happy. And that was a long, drawn conclusion, a very painful one to realize, honestly, because I'd been training for that for the last 7, 8 years. And this is what I'd set out myself to do. But when I realized that this wouldn't make me happy in the long run, I decided to drop out of my PhD and come back to India. And at the age of 24, I came back with no purpose, no aim, no direction, no money. Come from a very middle class background, so no financial support as such, hand to mouth existence all our lives. And that's when I began to think of what to do next. And a lot of people said, "You're confused, so why don't you do what most confused people do? Go get an MBA." so, so I applied to ISB, which was a very young school back then. It was only 5 years old, and I thankfully got through. And that 1 year just completely changed my life. It taught me so much about the real world. It taught me so much about my own self. I took up a management consulting job after that, did that for 3 years. And in 2009, I became an entrepreneur. And I somehow always knew that I wanted to become one, but I wasn't sure of when would be the right time. Like, uh, कब वो एक moment आएगा, that was always an unanswered question. So it was just luck, as is most things that have happened to me in life. They've just been purely out of luck. I was just catching up with a friend of mine from ISB. He was starting up and he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this new thing and I wanted to bounce this off with you and see if you would be interested." I I said, "I'm really interested, but I'm right now in the middle of a consulting job. So why don't I become a part-time entrepreneur and work with you?" And today I realize part-time entrepreneur kuch nahi hota hai. Either you are an entrepreneur or you are not. So did that for a year and a half and then quit my consulting job to join him full time. And that started the journey. Then Groupon happened, then Nearby happened. And in 2016, while Nearby was happening, for a very different reason, I started creating content. And the big reason was to create Nearby into an employer brand. We didn't have the most money, we were not paying the best salary, so we were like, how can we attract the best talent? And we felt that the best way to do that is to put yourself out and not rely on press and PR and all that, and see if you can just reach directly to whosoever could be working with you or interested to work with you. And did a did a bunch of mistakes at Nearby, learned a lot, got it to profitability, had a wonderful team of co-founders who were willing to take the charge. And so in October 2019, last year, I decided to step down as the CEO, take a break. And I've been on that 1 year break and I've been dabbling with a lot of things, including content, which is going out a lot more, uh, becoming a teacher, which I always loved, and bunch of other things like investing and so on. So as I said, it's been a wonderful life. I hadn't planned it this way. It has all happened because of luck, because of serendipity, and I couldn't be complaining one bit.
Great, that looks like quite a journey. So, tell me about like, when you got started with your entrepreneurship journey, we all have this moment where we feel like, okay, this seems like a good opportunity because when, we are in a job and then we are thinking of, okay, someday I will become an entrepreneur. In most of the cases, we cannot go and decide, okay, this is what we will do. And when entrepreneurs actually go and do it, they fail because then the market doesn't respond. I don't know where I heard it, but they say that it doesn't take time to become wealthy through the entrepreneurship route. It takes timing. So, what did you see when you started? When you became a co-founder of Nearby, what was the gap in the market that you see, and what motivated you to feel like, okay, this is it. Let's do this, and made you take that jump?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll actually take you back to 2009 when I started. And there I made the very classic mistake that you just pointed out, which was here's a great opportunity. And the opportunity, by the way, was very interesting. My batchmate from ISB, he started something called secondshadi.com, which was a matrimonial website for remarriages. And he's like, there's so many people who get married and thus get divorced and widowed. So there has to be a platform for them to get married again. And I loved the idea. And without any thought, without any market research, without any level of filtering, I was like, let's do it. And I think that was a classic rookie mistake because, as you rightly pointed out, and I have now come to believe, the market is perhaps the biggest thing that you sign up for as an entrepreneur. A bad team can still win in a good market, but a good team cannot win in a bad market. And the market's the market. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your degrees, where you've come from, how much you scored, how you look, how you talk, how much money you've raised. I constantly tell people that we don't buy things from startups because the founder is from IIT, or because the founder has not taken a salary for 6 months, or because the founder laid off people and we feel sorry for them. We don't care. The market's the market. And when Second Shadi happened, it was just out of, I have the backing of a good school. I am leaving consulting on a high. So if, God forbid, this doesn't work out, I think I can always go back. And that was my thought. That was just my thought. And I was willing to take that risk. It was a big financial risk. I remember taking a massive pay cut of consulting to join entrepreneurship down to the literally bare minimum that I needed to exist. But I was completely okay with that because I knew I could always go back if this didn't work out. And thankfully, it worked out in several ways. And then Groupon again was the same thing. It wasn't a decision of thought. It was just this super fast growing company from the US putting up flags all across the world. India was one of them. And I just got connected with them. They liked me, I liked them. And I started the Groupon India business. But as I did the Groupon India business for 4 years, that is when I think for the first time, wisdom struck. And it came late, but thankfully came in, which was, why does this market make sense? And why is this entire local commerce such a big opportunity? And why should we be thinking beyond deals and discounts, which is what Groupon stood for? So when we had the opportunity to build Nearby, which was an offshoot of Groupon, so we bought the Groupon India business from Groupon, and that became Nearby. I quickly took those decisions that I believed in all this while, which was shutting down some businesses, which in my opinion didn't make sense, changing the positioning of the brand from not just deals and discounts to stepping out and enjoying what local retail has to offer, expanding it into multiple categories and so on. So I think I did my share of mistakes and I learned it the hard way. And as I grew old and I gathered experience, the so-called wisdom started to come in. And I think Nearby was a result of that. Despite all of that, I still made some brilliant classic rookie mistakes, which of course we had to suffer for a lot because of my judgment and my lack of foresight. But I think it was very clear that the market opportunity was something massive, and it it rode on the fact that still 85% of retail in India is done locally, and everything is within a 5 kilometer peripheral. Whether it's grocery, whether it's even eating out, whether it's buying or shopping, whether it's entertainment, and someone had to then bring it all together, and we felt that we could be the one to do that.
Great. So, some of the things that you said, totally agree with it. I recently read this book, Sapiens, and I think I've read it like for the second time. And, one of the biggest perspective changes that I got was that, like, long back, humans were like, God will protect us. There is a soul, there is a God above in the skies, that he will protect us. And then they said the family will protect us, the extended family, the tribe will protect us. But the whole concept of a family tribe has started becoming thinner and thinner in this day and age. With nuclear families and everything. And then people say the government will protect us. The government will make sure that we don't go hungry, and we all know that it doesn't either. So the market becomes the ultimate thing to worship, because if you give the market something of value, the market will always take care of you. So the market becomes the authority, and it's like a self-regulating system, and the invisible hand. So yeah, I mean, as you said, people don't care about anything as long as they get what they want, which they need, and if we are able to provide it, then things will start scaling up. So we can keep going on and on about entrepreneurship and CEO, but I would like to bring back the focus on more of the personal thing, because the amount of opportunities out there are like infinite, and new entrepreneurship opportunities keep popping up, because unlike what people believe, that people think that anytime they think about a business idea, they are like, well, people really need it. I think every possible entrepreneurship idea has been already tried out there, is what people believe. But I believe that the more products and services that come into the market, the more the need of more products and services. It keeps offshooting. Like you buy a car, and then now there is a market for alloy wheels and car washing and everything. So I believe that it's like an infinite ocean of opportunity out there. But again, one of the biggest things, like people keep looking for, I want a degree, ISB, or like something like an MBA degree, or I want knowledge, I want secrets, I want network, I want connection. But above all, I think people forget one thing: it is just to be productive and work every day and keep grinding, right? So in like the common thread that I have seen in, like I have been in this journey since 2009. Like I graduated in 2008, tried a bunch of different things. I've always been lookout for what makes these entrepreneurs successful. Is it timing? Is it luck? Is it connections? Is it because they are invested? No, they just work their ass off every day, day in, day out for years, and then result starts coming in. So I want to ask about that. Like it's very easy to get pulled into that negativity and lethargy, and trying to do all these dopamine rush things. Hanging out with friends. Drinking. How does one keep themselves motivated and driven with like a particular schedule? Go to bed on time, and work out. I think that's where the secret of entrepreneurship lies. I mean, like we need a Y Combinator which teaches personal routine and personal hygiene success. So tell me more about that, because I believe that you are a person who has cracked it. Your daily routine, your energy levels, your motivational levels. So is it available for sale? Can people just go buy it?
Yeah, thankfully it's not available for sale, because I think that is the what I call the individual capitalism that exists in the world. And what I mean by that is there will always be disproportionate value accrued by those who crack the capitalism game. While there will always be this class that will crib about it, complain about it, and yet they are in complete control of doing everything that someone who they complain about is also doing. And that's the beauty of capitalism, but that's also the harm of it. So I tweeted the other day that a pro is just an amateur who showed up every day. And I firmly believe in that. I firmly believe in that, because it takes a lot to just show up every day, as you also rightly pointed out and so wonderfully explained. Because when you show up every day, you cannot possibly ignore the fact that things are getting hard, that things are not going your way, that there are gaps in how you're pursuing something, that there are inadequacies that you have to fill in. And yet, if you show up the next day and the next day and the next day, sooner than later, you will get it done. And that's just the beauty of the human mind. It doesn't work like an animal. It doesn't work like a donkey who will just clinically keep doing it. Here, there is compounding, which just manifests itself in beautiful ways. And I think the biggest thing that then it boils down to, Deepak, is how do we manage our time? And it's ridiculous how we're never taught this. It's ridiculous how people take it for granted. We all live like we are immortals. We all live like there's always this wonderful time ahead of us that we will get to. And we keep planning for that and planning for that and planning for that and just selling our present for it. And somehow, I don't like giving this answer because it makes it seem like people are either born with it or not. But the truth is that I just remember myself like this ever since I remember myself. I somehow always took care of my time. It wasn't that I was doing things the right way, but I always was measuring my time. And I remember back in school, I used to maintain a notebook, which was like, what did I do every hour of the day? And I had those notebooks for a really long time. As funny it is termites ate that notebook away. So I now don't have any record of it. And then when I went to the US, I moved to the computer and I started recording all of this on an Excel sheet. And I still have that from ISB, for instance, and from my days of Michigan State. I literally have every single day, every hour, what was it that I was doing? And I used to measure it. And back then, I didn't know why I was doing it, but now I realize what it did was it habituated me to be critical of where I was spending my time. I needed to be a very thorough academic around how my time is manifesting into how my day is then proceeding. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, I read something which just completely shook me up. And that was the reason why most people get so much done with their time is not because they manage their time, is because they manage their energy. And when we say we don't have time, what we essentially mean is we don't have energy. Because if we have the energy, we will find the time. The time will automatically just come about. And that just was a shift in how I saw of my time. And ever since, all I have been doing is just managing my energy. So I do have a very disciplined schedule. People will call it boring. I love it. I don't find it one bit boring, and I wouldn't do without it. And the center of that schedule is starting the day giving myself as much time as I need, doing things that I would want to do, whether it's reading, it's meditating, it's singing, it's working out, it's having a wonderful breakfast, it's getting ready, getting my kids ready. All of that just gives me joy. I am doing it at my pace. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it not because someone else has asked me to do it. And that just centers me. So when I start my work day, which starts at around 9:30, 10, I've had 4 or 5 hours of doing stuff that I just did for myself. And because of that, nothing can happen during the day just shakes me up, unless, of course, it's something really material. Right? What will happen? Nothing will happen. Like a bad word here, a canceled meeting here, a hard meeting there. No, nothing of that, because I've just centered myself. Now compare that to who I was, say, 15 years back in let's say ISB, where the class is starting at 8:30. I would get up at 8:15, literally rush through it. And at that point of time, at 8:30, if anything were to happen, like something as trivial as I slipped and fell, and thus got late in my class, I would just curse the entire universe for it. And that's just such a horrible way of dealing with life and dealing with time and dealing with energy. So I'm glad that something in me is hardwired to be very critical of where I spend my time. And then I'm super, super fortunate that I had that shift where managing my time became managing my energy. And now almost every decision that I make is managing my energy. And I, on a daily basis, if I say 1 or 2 yeses to anything that I have to do, I say at least 50 to 60 no's. Basically, no. And what's surprising, I don't know if you feel it, because I'm sure a lot of people reach out to you also for help. Initially, I thought I was being the asshole. Yeah, someone's reaching out for help and they genuinely want help. They don't know it. I was that person 10 years back, 15 years back. How can I say no to that? So on. But then when you're always mindful of the fact, you know what? If you just spent a little bit more energy, you'll actually find the answer through my content, which is where I spend my time. So please do that. And I'm sorry, I'll have to say no to this because this is not priority. What I surprisingly realized, a lot of people are respectful of that. At least on my face, they're saying thank you. They may be abusing me still in the back, but they're like, we're mindful of your time. I'm glad that you have the respect for that. This is why we respect you. And it's totally okay. We get it. And that just made it easier and easier and easier for me. So now literally everything that I do is because I choose to do it.
Fantastic. Amazing. So there are a few things that I really kind of reflected with. And one thing is that this discipline, which people always think that, okay, he might be living a boring life, but nobody ever kind of went into the hard mode. And basically, hard mode is like being very disciplined, waking up on time, sleeping on time, eating healthy food, and basically fasting on dopamine. Right? You try to reduce that dopamine rush as much as possible. And nobody ever said that the quality of my life went down because I was always disciplined, right? But if you had all the time in the world, all the money in the world, and if you just went partied with friends, drank, chilled out, watched movies, within like 2 weeks you will feel like shit. I mean, there is no other way around it. One more thing that I wanted to, do. So before that, I come to that question. I like what you said about, hey, it's there available in my content. Go ahead and refer it. And in this context, I actually started digitaldeepak.com with the same belief. And even now, a lot of people think that, okay, he called himself Digital Deepak because he is doing digital marketing training. But the actual story behind Digital Deepak is that I don't want to be there interacting with people all the time myself. So I will create a digital version of myself, which is my blog, my content, and everything. So I put it out there. And you can either access the content in bulk, but I will also make it easy for you by putting it on a sequence, putting it on a drip marketing sequence, putting some marketing automation behind it, so that my digital version interacts with you, so that I can just go and do something else which is more productive. So that was the story behind Digital Deepak. And I still keep telling this in my training programs. You have to like create a digital clone of yourself, which will create that value out there.
Awesome. I love that. I really love that. That actual thought behind it is very powerful.
So I call it, so they call it ghost in the machine, right? Like when a machine is sentient and it can, behave itself, we call it ghost inside the machine. It's like old Tom and Jerry show may, they think that the vacuum cleaner like switched on and it's like the ghost inside the machine. So I call it my ghost in your machine. Maybe right now as we are, talking, we are live here spending time having this discussion, but there is definitely some people who are watching your content in their system and my content in their systems. So it's like my ghost in their machine, which they are communicating with. So yeah, so one more question that kind of comes up with your answers is that, so I'm a fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I'm pretty sure since you are an astrophysicist, you would have followed him. And I recently took this masterclass from Neil deGrasse Tyson. So he has a masterclass course in which he talks about this whole scientific thinking process. How do you think objectively instead of subjectively? And that one particular class, like for me, was like a huge realization on. So I have always got into trouble, being a non-conformist, doing something else, and not really following what my parents and teachers asked me to do and what the society expects me to do. I have like got into very big troubles, which we will talk off the record. But but then I was like, okay, like if you just look at the objective truth, then if you make decisions according to them, then there is no chance that you can go wrong, because you are looking at the same thing from different perspectives. And this is how it has to be. Like you cannot really be worried about anyone's opinions. And like for example, the value of pi is the same in Earth, in Mars, or wherever you go, right? It doesn't change according to people's opinions about it. So I have kind of started thinking that all my decisions should be taken based on as much as objective truth that you can get. Some things you cannot always get the objective truth, which you take the approach of experimentation. Okay, let's experiment it. Will this landing page convert better or that landing page convert better? The data will give you the answer. So in terms of decision making, as you said, you have made a lot of mistakes in decision making as well. But how do we make better decisions in life? Because one wrong decision can waste literally 10 years of a person's life. Whether it could be relationships, career, whether to stay in India or go abroad. So from your perspective, in terms of decision making, what is the mental model that you have created yourself? Like when you are presented with a tough decision, let's say investing in a startup, quitting as CEO, what is the framework that you use to eventually get to a decision and also stick to it? Because they say that people who know what they want make decisions very quickly and take a long time to change it, and people who don't know what they want take a long time to make a decision and keep changing it very quickly. So yeah, talk about that decision making.
So one is, I consciously avoid the number of decisions that I have to take, and that's something that I've gotten better and better at. I do believe that the capacity to take decisions is limited, and thus I would want to reserve whatever energy that I have within me to take the decision that would actually make a difference. So and it helps that I actually don't care about a lot of things in life which most people might. I don't care about how I come across. I don't care about the clothes I wear. I don't care about what people think of me. I don't care about society, so on, right? So in several ways, I can relate to what you're saying when you call yourself a non-conformist. And that has really helped, because it just takes a lot of the burden of the decision, so on. And then I would reserve myself for the big decisions. And those big decisions may be, in my opinion, no more than one or two in a year, which would be around relationships or career, about life, kids, so on. And the mental model that's really helped me, Deepak, is what's called the worst case simulation. And the worst case simulation, I think when I have to take a decision, I almost always know what I want to do. It's like, well, Facebook, sikka uchhalo, when it's in the air, what you think is what you really want, right? That glamorous romantic story is actually true. So I think all of us know deep down what we really want. And I also know myself what I would want. The question then is, what's the worst thing that can happen if I do take the decision that I want to take? And I would not come up with a probabilistic answer, because that's the curse of intelligence that we all have, which is, oh, let's predict how likely it is. No, that's not the point. The point is, however unlikely it is, or however likely it is, your job is to vividly imagine that worst case scenario unfolding in front of you. So let's say you are someone in your business school and you have to take a material decision of should I sit for the placements or join or start your own startup. And that's a meaningful decision that could maybe alter your life. And you want to start up, but you're not sure of whether that's the right decision or not. No one knows what the right decision is. No one can tell you before. It's always post-mortem. What you can do is, or at least what I do, I want to start up. What's the worst thing that can happen? And the worst thing is the startup will shut down. So imagine the day when the startup shut down. We don't have money to pay your salaries. And maybe you are at a social gathering in the evening and someone says, hey, how's the startup coming along? And you're like, I have to shut it down. So literally the motion. And then you ask yourself the tough question, which is, now I know what the worst case scenario feels like. Am I okay for it to happen? Am I okay physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, psychologically, socially? And if the answer to all of those is yes, 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 I would take the decision. If the answer is even a remote no, I would not take the decision. And that framework has really helped me. It's something that I realized much later in life is actually a form of Stoic philosophy, where they live life imagining the worst, but they take it to an extreme. They're always saying, always remember that you're going to die every single day. always remind yourself that you're going to die. I don't go as far, but I always then imagine what is the worst case situation for any decision I have to take. And then it just becomes very clear. Yeah. It just becomes supremely clear that you're optimizing for something that you would want to do, not knowing where it takes you, but you're okay with wherever it takes you.
Fantastic. I think most of the people don't end up taking the right decisions because they think they will live forever.
Yeah.
And then it becomes too late.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic.
So true, man. And I think the amount of collective energy that is spent in the world to take the right decision is possibly the worst use of this universe's energy. Because we all drug ourselves into believing that more data will give us the right decision, more experiences will give us the right decision, more conversations will give us the right decision. No, everyone's speaking from their own experience, everyone's speaking from their own bias. You will look at the numbers the way you want to. If you nudge the numbers enough, they will tell you the story you want to hear. So I think it's just a unfortunate waste of collective energy that everyone's going after, am I taking the right decision? When the right question should be, do I believe enough in this decision irrespective of what happens?
Mm. Great. So I think we have gone through a bunch of very interesting answers, and now I want to ask about whenever we are achieving something, whether it's a non-profit initiative or entrepreneurship, everything is a collective effort. Nothing is achieved as a single person. So in terms of team building and in terms of how you choose the right people to get on your team, how do you manage the relationship at work? And there are always something that is beyond work in terms of that relationship that you have, the positive, negative emotions. So I think if you make the right hiring decisions, most of the issues get solved right there. But at the same time, we end up making wrong decisions as well. So talk a little bit about how do you hire and how was your hiring process when you were at Groupon, and how do you let go of people? And after you have hired, when there is some a friction within the team, and how do you maintain the culture? And I once heard from the ex CEO of Common Floor, and he said the culture is the invisible co-founder. You don't need to be there, but the culture will take care of itself. So talk a little bit about that and your experiences.
Yeah, we had a wonderful time building Groupon and Nearby, and I'm very proud of the way that we went about building the team, the culture that we had. It's honestly the only thing that made us survive despite the hard times that we had. And there were a couple of beliefs that went into making this. Number one was the belief that beyond the skills of an individual, it becomes immensely important how they are as individuals personally on whether they will be successful or not. Because you don't want to be working with assholes. Life is too short. And I didn't want to build a company that was assholes. I didn't want to build a company that was about politics. I didn't want to build a company which was not about trust. So it was very important that we hired people, even if that came at the expense of skills. We hired people that we genuinely would hang out with even after work and would never bitch about, would never backstab. And that meant that the hiring process had to change significantly. What I was troubled by was the starting point of every hiring process was the resume. And this resume is such a fake document because you're always talking about the awesome things that you've done, but no one talks about what got them there. And that is invariably will all be the mistakes and the failures that you've gone through. So this resume is this dog and pony show that you put up, claiming that you're the best gift to mankind, when the truth is there's so much hidden behind you that actually got you to this point, including maybe even privilege. So we changed that. We said we don't want to look at the resume of people because that's a fake document. We want to look at people. So everyone who applied to Nearby, we send them a list of 20 questions. And those 20 questions had nothing to do with their work. Those 20 questions were questions like, what's the worst thing about you? Pick between speed and perfection. Pick between money and power. If you could live without one of the 5 senses, which one would it be and why? What's the one trait that you've got from your parents that you would love to pass on to your kids if you have them? How often do you get angry? Why? When was the last time you were intimidated? Why? Things which are usually not part of a hiring process. The good thing was, if we sent this question out to 100 people, only 27% replied. We were like, great. We don't want to listen to the rest. And they have self-selected themselves out. So that was awesome. Now we had 27%, and I was like, save your energy for the best. And by the time we actually got to the interview, which was through a series of these hops, we knew so much about the individual, and the individual knew so much about how we think and behave like an organization. That was just a wonderful interview. It was, yeah, about skills, and we always hired the people that came in with the right skills, but it was so much about, you know what, I think we will just gel together. Our worldviews are similar. We see things the same way. You don't come across as an asshole. You don't come across as a micromanager. You don't come across as people who don't trust people easily. And I think that will work. And that is the way it has. But I love the fact that you asked me the second question, which is an equally important one, and that is, how do you fire? And I stand on record saying I have never regretted firing someone. I've only regretted not having done it fast enough. And we always saw firing as a gift to individuals and to ourselves. We approached it by saying, the reason why we're firing you, unless of course it was something which was on moral grounds, but the reason why we're firing you is because you're not set up for success in this organization. And we've tried our best. You've tried your best. But if you persist, you're never going to be a top performer here, ever. And if we persist, we're never going to see the best of you. So it doesn't even make sense for you to spend your time here. You're only doing it to protect your job. Like, it's this fake sense of comfort that you're going after. So we will make it comfortable for you. We will give you time to search for a job. We would literally say, here's the conversation we've had. From tomorrow onwards, don't show up. 100% of your time now should be going towards finding the next opportunity, wherever it is. And we're okay with that. You have your notice period, 1 month, 3 months, whatever the time is, take that time. Find that opportunity. Don't show up to work. We don't expect anything from you any further, but give yourself this gift. Because if you find the place that can actually set you up for success, that is what you deserve. And I think we deserve that as well. So while we go and find that other person, you go and find your next opportunity. And there were times I distinctly remember people have been on our roles for 9 months, 10 months, because they didn't find an opportunity. And we were like, okay, take your time. That's fine. But don't show up at work. Don't show up at work, because that is not going to help you. And that time was really difficult for them, because they were like, no, every day, no, take me back, take me back. And it's like, no, the decision is made. It's for your good. And each one of those individuals have come back and personally told me that that was an extremely hard time for them, but they are immensely thankful for having gone through that time, because now they're doing things that they, I don't think, would have imagined themselves to do. So both hiring and firing was very, very sacrosanct at Nearby. We took it very seriously, and I think we gave it its worth and its due.
Great. So I think that's very important. Like, the team also, kind of makes or breaks the company. And I have always hired, like, every person working in our team right now. We have a team of 10 people, except the copywriter, who basically converted me into a client using his copywriting skills and made me his exclusive copywriter now. Apart from him, everybody else in the team is from my own student base.
Nice.
And with every batch of training program that I do, I look at the student or look at the person who is being most helpful in the community to other people, because that's what we need people for. We need more like trainers, mentors who would do like, support, Q&A and everything. And we just pick out the most helpful person, which they are doing it anyway, even without getting paid. Hey, now you will get paid for it, so they are happy. And I've time and time again seen that if I have got someone else from some other source through a recruiting firm or something, it was always like a disconnect. So for me, at least, that has it might not work for every company, because we are a training and education company. We have that funnel going for us.
Yes.
And I also do
Exactly.
something called the hiring funnel, where I ask people to apply, and I sent out a sequence of mails like a drip marketing mail. And each and every mail talked about the company's history, when we founded, what is the vision, what we try to achieve, and we try to get them to they will not have any questions for us by the time they come for the interview. They will be like, okay,
Wonderful.
this is the company's vision, and the actual application form to get to the interview is like hidden in the fifth email, towards the bottom of the email. So if you have gone through all the emails and you have found that link, then you are probably good enough for me to spend time interviewing you and think of taking you into the team. So
Very
that is
clever. Very
uh,
clever. I like that. I like that.
so I mean, a lot of time people who attend interviews in companies do not know the vision of the company. Imagine we have 1,500 people working at Razorpay. I know the history of Razorpay, which I'm very inspired by. It started out as a small incubator in IIT Roorkee and then Jaipur with the whole startup incubator. And they started out as this whole, collection system for school fees, and then they pivoted. But how many of the new people who come know that? Because I had the opportunity to talk to the founders directly. Like Hashil was the one who interviewed me when I got into Razorpay. And but when the organizations grows big, people don't know the backstory. So I'm like, we use drip marketing for converting leads into customers warming up. Why can't we just get a collection of leads who are planning to work with us and just explain them and educate them about the company over time and see how much they are motivated and how much they relate to. So that is something I'm also planning to see if I can, get other people to do it as well. So because it has worked well for us.
Very cool. I love that. Very cool.
So yeah, so now let's talk about your content journey. And now you are creating more content. What do you believe about? So right now we have this huge problem of content where earlier you had newspapers and subscriptions and magazines which were being sold, and now it has come back to free because of display advertising, which is also kind of pulling down the quality of journalism because people need to get more page views to get more revenue from ads. There is no other revenue source. And because they are having this inbuilt pressure to get more page views, the quality of the articles are going down. It becomes more sensationalist, divisive, and more clickbaity. I would say the whole journalism is going down that path, including TV and everything. And then we have this paid content, and there is also this huge thing about massive open online courses. And then you have now people are doing more of live training one-on-one because just giving, it's not about the content anymore, it's more about content curation, it's more about mentorship. And we have a dismal rate of course completion rate across all online courses. 5% is the max which I have seen. And if you are getting people to pay for content, a lot of people put out content on YouTube as well, like some very high quality content, and sometimes even paid courses are not as good. However, if you are just putting out content out there, the only way you can monetize it is via ads. So if you are getting people to pay for content, people are buying it, not even using it. So what is your understanding of free content, paid content, courses, and how do you get people to actually transform? Because end of the day, if they don't transform, and if they don't actually put the course into use and actually complete it and take action on the course, it's not going to be of any use. We are not moving the needle. Unless a lot of people think that I'm just going to try to make money, let me find out what is the method to make money. That's different approach. It is not definitely sustainable long term, which anyone who has been in entrepreneurship for more than 5 years would know that you need to create something that people rave about, people are getting results, and you need to have a solid product. So with content, it is still a challenge across the globe, and people have been trying n number of different ways. But yeah, so whatever you think about that and whatever you have learned, you can share it with us.
I've had a very fascinating journey here, Deepak, with content. As I mentioned, it started with not the intention that it is fulfilling right now. It started with the intention of making Nearby into an employer brand. And we started in 2016. We chose very different platform back then for video, which was LinkedIn. And that was simply because LinkedIn had just launched its video feature. So I saw the arbitrage opportunity there. And that just gave the visibility. Now it's of course spread across all. And the intention was just chronicle my journey as an entrepreneur. There's so many things that I do right and wrong. And if it can in some way just help. So it was curated experience, but it was not curated delivery. Delivery was self-managed, and if you had that wherewithal, you would go through it or not. The idea was never to monetize, and that's why I really didn't even care about how it was being perceived and so on and so forth. Then when I stepped down as a CEO last year, I started to think about this in an organized fashion. And the question that I asked myself was, what is it that I want to stand for when it comes to my content? And I was very clear that there were two things that I wanted to stand for. One was entrepreneurship, which I genuinely believe in is a gateway to economic success for the country. And two, around discovering your own life, especially when you are in your 20s, because that I feel is getting harder and harder for people in their 20s to do just because of everything that's happening to them in real time. And these were the two topics that I devoted myself to. And the ideology that I fixed myself on is my content will always be free. It will never be behind a paywall, and people will self-select themselves. They will do the hard work of the curation. They will do the hard work of finding everything that there is. And for people who do care about it, or maybe are lazy, I will curate that content. And that curation will then become courses. So today, I run these courses on startup, on time management, on how to explore your 20s, speaking effectively as a public speaker, so on and so forth. And that's the first step. And what I'm doing is, of course, I'm playing it very long term, and I don't have any impatience built around this. It's step by step. One is free for all. Whosoever wants to consume it, I am creating that content. No one can ever say, oh, you've never spoken about it, because honestly, in the last 4 years, I've created more than 1,200 hours of content. I've spoken about literally everything that there is to it. And then first level of filter, which is curation. And that is just, of all these 1,200 hours, I will give you the 8 hours that make the most sense for starting up. I will give you the 2 hours that make the most sense for speaking publicly. I'll make the 2 hours that make the most sense around time management. So that's the next step. Then the next step will be for me to devote my time. And that will, okay, you've consumed this content. Now you have a lot of questions. Until now, I used to answer those questions on comments, and I could only do that at scale. But now I'm going to engage with the audience. And I'm going to have a limited group, but I'm going to now engage in anything that you wish to unravel or clear about whatever it is that you consumed around the content. And then the final stage will be, at least when it comes to me, the final stage will be when I handhold people through that entire journey. What I'm hoping is that that final stage will have scale so that whosoever comes out of it will be able to go through this exact same journey back where I started from. So what I would want to do is create a university of teachers where what I'm shipping out are not entrepreneurs or people who know their shit, but I'm essentially shipping out teachers or instructors who go through this entire circle, maybe over a decade, and then are in a capacity that they could do it themselves. They could do it themselves. They can do it themselves. And that's what I feel is a self-fulfilling vehicle that hopefully will be in some way sustainable. The inspiration for this was very oddly Shahnaz Hussain. I remember growing up, and maybe you would also to some extent, almost every beauty parlor that had a board on it saying Poonam Beauty Parlor, Shilpa Beauty Parlor, Ye Beauty Parlor, would always say trained by Shahnaz Hussain. And I was always fascinated by that. I was like, how is it possible that this one woman has trained literally every beauty parlor in this world? How is that even possible? But that's what she built. And I don't know whether she did a good job or a bad job, but the inspiration of that was, I would love to be the trainer of trainers, because the world cannot do with just one of me, one of you, and one of everyone else. It's like going back to Elon Musk and saying, back in 2016, the reason he made all the patents of Tesla public was because he admitted that Tesla would never be single-handedly able to change the entire landscape of the automobile industry. So he needed people to go and do it with him. And that, I believe, is audacious, it's bold, it's courageous, but it's the right thing to do, which is open source what you know. And open source what you know and create more and more people who think and operate, or at least have the same beliefs in the worldview system as you do, because then you're creating more and more of you, not being in some way pompous or narcissistic, but you're just creating more and more of you in the way that you know. And that just helps the community going even further. So I feel that content, when it's looked at a zero-sum game, is a disaster. And that's what journalism is in the way that you referred, कि एक इंसान आधा घंटा अपना देने के लिए तैयार है, अब वो आधा घंटा यहाँ जाएगा, यहाँ जाएगा, यहाँ जाएगा, is a zero-sum game. So I have to be clickbaity. I have to show stuff that will sensationalize, tantalize, and so on. But if you were to look at content as not a zero-sum game, but a positive-sum game, then it just is massive. Like it just blows my mind how much wisdom there exists in the world in the form of books, in the form of people, in the form of experiences. And if you were to now just create more and more people in that space, then I think you just created the biggest machinery that the world has.
Great. I like the part where you said trained by. You have to, train. You have to be the trainer of the trainers, and then it'll spread like that. So it has been almost 1 hour since we started the discussion. So we will start winding up now. So before we wind up, maybe for the next 5 minutes, I will just ask you like short questions. You can maybe reply in like one word or maybe like one sentence. And just wanted to like bring the lighter side of you. So what is spirituality according to you?
It's I think it's being at peace with oneself and seeing others as living beings with feelings. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I see it.
So what does money mean to you in your life?
Freedom.
What is the difference between success and failure?
The one that I define. If I feel that I haven't given it my all when I could have, it's a failure. And if I do things that make me happy without caring two hoots about what the world thinks, it's success.
If you had just 1 week to live, what would you do?
The same thing that I'm doing. I'm living the life that I would want to live. So I wouldn't change any of that.
What do you think about kids?
Kids? Oh, it's I can go on and on about that, man. It was funny. I was talking about this yesterday to someone. I feel that parenting is the one profession that no one is trained on and potentially has the biggest impact on the world. It is ridiculous how many parents just learn it on the job, as did I. But it's also shocking how much of what we do and how good or bad we are at that, it shapes up the entire world because it shapes up the identity of one person. So I love my kids and I totally adore them, but I also see it as an immense sense of responsibility.
Yeah. So great. What's your favorite movie and why?
I don't have yet. I really like watching movies. So favorite movie will be a really hard one. I like so many of them.
Okay. So what is your favorite genre of music?
I really like Coke Studio. I really like a combination of classical, Hindustani or Sufi mixed with just lyrics that are new age. Coke Studio is like in the center of that, especially the one from Pakistan. It's brilliant.
Okay. So final question. If you can go anywhere and spend the rest of your life there, which would be
Mars.
Mars.
I knew that answer before you even asked. Mars, 100%. I would really like to die on Mars. I would really like to die on Mars.
Probably not on landing.
I hope not. I hope not. That's not the way it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So thanks, Ankur, for doing this interview for my channel and my audience. I'm pretty sure the audience would enjoy this conversation and would definitely like to have you again with our audience and with our students for further interaction. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Deepak. All the best with everything that you're doing. It was a pleasure to be on this channel.